Today I'm going to be telling you about a lot of books that I have purchased or otherwise acquired since last September. Now, there were a few books that I haven't talked to you about yet that I got in July, but they're going to be in a different video because they're Christian books, and I'm going to do my Christian books in a separate video because this one is going to be quite long enough anyhow. So I got a lot of books. It started with the Missing 411 books. Remember them? I did a separate video on these. I unboxed them and I showed you. They're all by David Paulides, who has a YouTube channel, and I will put his link in the description of this video. He writes about missing people and he writes about Bigfoot. Well, he used to write about Bigfoot, not so much anymore, but he's on to missing people and he's written a lot of Missing 411 books. And so that was September. I got a bit of money and I decided to buy those Missing 411 books. They're kind of expensive and I had never bought them before. For many years I knew about them, but I couldn't buy them. And then when I did get the money, I bought them and really happy to have them. I'm going to start reading that one in January. So after that, I decided, well, I still have more money, so I am going to buy the rest of the books that I need for my David McCullough read-along. Well, I got most of them. I got most of them at least through this year. This is the one we're going to be reading in January and February. It's The Path Between the Seas, and it's about the Panama Canal, building of the Panama Canal. And so kind of excited about reading that, learning more about the Panama Canal. I'm going to put the book over there. So while I was at it, I got a lot of other books. I think the next one that we're going to be reading, hold on, it's in this stack. The next one I'm pretty sure is this one, Mornings on Horseback, about the life of President help me, Theodore Roosevelt. I should have known that. Okay, I'm embarrassed now, but Theodore Roosevelt is the next book by David McCullough that we will be reading. Right or wrong? I'm not sure. There's a couple others that I'm going to be reading this year. So I believe this one is this year, Portraits in History, Brave Companions, which is a series of biographies. So that one's coming up this year, and also the biggest one. This is about Truman. So that'll be later this year, and I have the book. I'm ready to go on it. If we're going to be doing this one this year, it's not until the end of the year, I'm pretty sure. So I've got all these books ready to go, and also The Greater Journey, which is about Americans in Paris. So there are still a few that I haven't purchased, like the one about the Wright brothers, and I think there's two others. After that, I mean, I just kind of went crazy buying things, and I got a lot of different topics over here. But first, before we go into the other books that I have purchased since then, I will tell you that I was really inspired by reading that Forks Over Knives little book that I had gotten. It was actually an audio book about the Forks Over Knives program, and I thought I would explore that as a possible solution to my arthritis problem. So I'm not transitioned yet, and I did get the cookbook, and I got this one, which is the Forks Over Knives plan, which is telling me it's going to be a 4-week meal-by-meal makeover, how to transition to the life-saving whole food plant-based diet. So I've got those two books now, and I'm going to start reading this one also in January. And I'm giving myself like 3 months to read it. I'm not going to just like rush right through it. I'm sorry, I'm having to put the books over there because there's a lot of books and I don't have room on my side table for them. So I'm going to tell you, I got a few books here that I'm going to be reading next month. I'm going to do a separate video for this epistolary January. but these are 3 of the books that I have recently received that I'm going to be doing for reading for Epistolary January. This one is Diary of a 49er. And this one is one that was recommended by Erion. She said this was her favorite or one of her favorite books, Address Unknown, and it's letters, as I understand it. So I thought that would work for Epistolary January. And then this one I ordered from Thrift Books. Very unusual for me to get a used book, but there you have it. I don't usually get used books because I'm a bit on the OCD side. I always say that I never had a diagnosis of OCD, but I just like to have new books. So, and I don't want anybody to touch my books. So, but anyhow, Dear Mr. Knightley, as I understand it, is Christian fiction, and it is an epistolary novel, which is why I had to buy it instead of listen to it on an audiobook. Normally, I think audiobooks are fine for Christian fiction and things like that, but not an epistolary novel, because that audiobooks just kind of destroy epistolary novels, if you ask me. Because you can't see the letters, you can't see the formatting. Okay, here's some more random things that I got. This is A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen. So I bought that one, and we'll be reading it soon. You know, I'm going on the Read What You Own plan, and I thought how convenient it would be to read small books if I'm going to read 100 books, you know, because if I read 100 books and they're thick books, it's going to take like forever. I bought this one, The Long Haul. I believe it's like sort of a memoir, a trucker's tales of a life on the road. And I got that one because my youngest son is a truck driver. He used to be a long haul truck driver, which he did not much care for, I guess, because now he has the kind of truck driving job where he can go home every night. He likes that better, but he might go back to long haul. I don't know. Anyhow, I got that so I could hear about tales of life on the road, because when he was a long haul truck driver, he used to call me all the time and tell me about things that were going on in his life. And it was pretty interesting to hear his stories. And so here we go. I have another book about truck driving. Now this one, I actually got this one free. It's Worlds Apart, Poverty and Politics in Rural America. I got this from, I think, the Ford Foundation. They had some kind of a program where they were giving away free books. And so I looked through what they were offering and decided to read this one about poverty. And okay, now you know Erion over at Bookzelots has been recommending these books by Annie Jacobson, and I got 3 of them. First of all, Area 51, which I just finished reading. It's about mainly military history and airplanes. I didn't love it, but I was interested in it, and I read it all. So even though I didn't love it, it was interesting enough for me to get all the way through it. So that's a yes and a no, I guess. Now the next one is Operation Paperclip. And the reason I was so interested in this is because I used to have a boyfriend who told me once that he thought his father was part of Operation Paperclip. So, you know, I had never even heard of it before. And then when I saw this book in Arion's hands, I decided I have to read that. So we'll see. I'd like to know more about it. It's basically after World War II, the American government brought a lot of scientists to the United States from Germany. And, well, I'm going to get all the information that's been declassified here. And then the third one I got from Annie Jacobson, Nuclear War. And I was sort of surprised when Erion read this book. She actually did not love it. So I probably won't love it either, because anything about atomic warfare and nuclear war is like a horrible topic, no matter what. No matter what. So the next thing I'm going to tell you about is some art books. Let's go with art. Okay, you all know, or most of you know, in 2020, my mobile home burned down. And it was a big forest fire. There were over 200 homes that burned. My home was just one of them. And so one of the first things that I thought when I heard that my home had burned, I thought, well, there goes my books, because I had a lot of books that I really valued in that mobile home. And so this was one of them. This is one of my books that burned. It's called The Creative License by Danny Gregory. And I was almost to the end of this book. It's a beautiful book. It's about sketching. And like every page in this book is just interesting to look at. It's got a lot of his sketches in there, and he talks about sketching in many different aspects. So I wanted to finish reading the book, and so now I have a copy again. Yeah. Now I have a friend up in Canada who I have met through a Christian art mentorship program, and we have some Zoom calls, and I met her on a Zoom call. Lucky me, because we've been corresponding via email ever since. And she actually had an article in, I think it was this one. There was a small article about her and her painting. She had one painting that was featured in there. So I was curious and decided to join or get a subscription to the Uppercase. Now she's in Canada, and this is a Canadian art company, I guess you would say. So this is one of the books that I got. It's got like multiple artists featured in there, and then the other one was the number 62, and so those came in recently. And then this one is another story, History of Art. This is by H.W. Jansen. Now, when I was a very young person, I was in college, and I took an art history course, and it was about like ancient art history. And we had to buy this book. This was a textbook, and I had a copy of this for a couple of years until I got married, and then I got separated from him. And when I went back for my stuff in the place where we were renting, my book was gone. So I don't know what happened to my original copy, but all these years I've been wanting another copy, and yes, now I finally got another copy. It's all about art history and well illustrated. That's all I'm going to say. It's well illustrated. Let me just show you a sample page. There you go. So I'm excited to have this, and I'm going to enjoy learning more about art history, because I really only took the first half of the art history. There was an art history 1 and art history 2. Well, I didn't take the second half. So I'm glad I got the book. Now, these are some various books about creativity. This is making documentary films and videos. You know, like most YouTube people, I want to make my videos better than before. So I always want to keep improving. So I thought this would give me some more ideas. And it says it's a practical guide to planning, filming, and editing documentaries. Who knows? Maybe I'll get better at this someday. You never know. So I also got a copy of the Writer's Idea book, and I don't even know why I got this really, because when I'm writing, I don't run out of ideas, that's for sure. but this has, I guess, prompts and things like that in it. I haven't read it yet, but I was curious enough to get a copy. Now this one is the book that I wrote and published back in 2011, I believe it was. And I just got 20 more copies because somebody was here for a Bible study and she didn't have a copy and she wanted to read it. So anyhow, I got 20 more copies so I can give some away. And I don't actually sell them. I don't make money on it, but let me go back to that book. I wrote this book so that the children, young people of this town that I live in could have a book about the town that they live in. That was my thought. And they have it now. I have written a lot of other novels, mainly young adult, but I have not published them. So these are two books also about the town that I live in. Now this little red book may not look like much, but I paid over $100 for this because it's out of print. And I guess this is one of the original copies, and it has a lot of historic photographs in it. I have a friend across town who was interested in getting the historic photographs out of this book. And it's called Before the White Man Came by Charles S. Graves. I wonder if he was part of that family that came with the Donners. Because I just finished that book about the Donner Party and it was focusing on Sarah Graves. And, well, here we have another man with the same last name. Anyhow, Before the White Man Came cost me over $100. It's the first time I've ever bought out of print book for anything near that amount of money. But then there was another book that he wrote, same man, Lore and Legends of the Klamath River Indians. So pretty much the same thing, but different articles. So I've got, that one was a reprint, that was not an original. Now, let me get some more books over here. This is another story. I'm getting towards the end of this. So I met this woman on YouTube. Her name's Christina Winikoff, and she has a channel, and she made some videos about ergodic fiction, ERGODIC, and I was intrigued by her video and her enthusiasm and decided I was going to get myself a little collection of ergodic fiction so that I can read it too. Easier just to say weird fiction, but go look up the word ergodic on Google and you'll understand more about what it is, maybe because it's a little confusing, but it's basically fiction that you have to interact with. So I've been reading this one, Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. And don't ever read this one without a dictionary. You've got to have a dictionary of some kind nearby to get through this if you want to try to figure out what he's talking about. And it's very interesting because like the first part of the novel, it's a novel, it's a foreword. There's a long foreword. Do not skip the foreword. That's part of the novel. And then there's a poem that is about 1,000 lines. Yep. And it's a terrible poem. I mean, just personally, I think this is a terrible poem, but it is the poem that is part of the book, so you have to read it. Anyhow. And then after that, the person who is the narrator in this book is writing a commentary. So all the parts of the novel, there's like 3 different sections and they all interact together, and it's weird. It's really weird. So I'm kind of enjoying it. I know that I am because I look forward every night to sitting down with that novel and going through a little bit more of it. Now, this is one that I'm going to be reading next month during the epistolary January. And it is a ergodic fiction novel, but it's also epistolary because basically the entire book is written in push messages, little notification messages, like what you get in your computer. So can't wait to get into that. That's going to be very interesting. And then more ergodic fiction. I've got 4 more. This is called If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. I don't know anything about it. That's as much as I know right there. And this one is Cain's Jawbone. I know this one is strange because there's a mystery, and if you figure out the mystery, it's a miracle, but you have to decide which order the pages were supposed to be in order to figure out the mystery. So I think a lot of people like take the pages out and move them around, try to make sense of it all. And I don't know, this sounds like it could be a hobby for years, but there it is. And then we've got 2 more. Now this one is S. I think I've seen this one before, but I haven't unwrapped it yet. So I think there's a lot of different parts to this, and find out more about it when I read it. And then the last one that I bought is actually the first one that Christina said that she had read. It's House of Leaves, and I know that this one is about a family that moves into a house, and then they're very surprised to find out the interior of the house is larger than the exterior. The interior of the house is larger than the exterior of the house, okay? Which is rather mysterious, and I think it's like a horror novel, so we'll see what happens. Anyhow, I got those books pretty much to entertain myself with something that is a little different than your normal, ordinary novel. And that's it. That's all I have for this book haul, except for the Christian books that I am going to be putting in a separate video. Thanks for listening, and I hope it was not too long. I have no idea how long this video is at this point. Okay, talk to you later.